Hey everyone, it's Maydad here from 𝙊'𝙎𝙪 Health and Wellness. And tonight I'm joined with Neil O'Sullivan, who is the co-founder of Nimbus Health and Wellness. Now, if you don't already know, Nimbus has four different locations with the one more on its way, two in Sydney, in Bondi and Manly, and two in Melbourne, including Fitzroy, and one soon to be opened in Brisbane. But welcome to the show, to tonight's Zoom, Neil. It's great having you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Maydad. I'm coming to you live from my bedroom in Brisbane, as you do. But I have a 3-year-old who's running around. So if I have this set up anywhere else in the house, we're not going to get anything done. So, the life of a dad and a business owner. And yeah, thanks for that intro. We have technically 4 studios live and operating as we speak, but we're about to open our Fitzroy studio, which will be number 5 in Melbourne and the second one in Melbourne. And yeah, we live in Brisbane now, so hopefully at some point in the future we can have a presence here. And there's a few other cards up our sleeve, which I can't announce right now, but in the
That's
coming weeks we're going to have a few more studios coming. So watch the space.
that's awesome. I'd love to know more about a lot more about that. I'd love, that's something I wanted to talk to you about that in person as well. If some of you guys have not experienced the Nimbus experience, I have many times. It's one of my favorite places to get away. When I want to get out of work, I went there this morning where I had an ice bath. There's so many services that they provide, which we'll cover in this Zoom, and I'm sure Neil will be happy to talk about. But Neil, can you share with us a little bit about your background and your journey before discovering Nimbus and being the co-founder, and what were you doing?
Yeah, look, I'm Irish, if anyone hasn't guessed that yet, but I've been in Australia for 13 years. I came to Melbourne initially for 2 years, and I was in Bondi Beach for the last 10 or 11 years, and now I'm in Brisbane about a year. But yeah, my wellness journey is quite personal, actually. I've played semi-professional soccer my whole life, so I've always played at the top end of kind of that elite level of sport. So I've always trained very hard, looked after myself generally. You have to if you want to play at that kind of level or above. So I've always had that really good grounding, and soccer has played a huge role in my life as I've gone through, God, since I've been about 5 years of age, I would say. But my wellness journey only really kicked into gear about, well, really when I met my wife, Sue, who's our co-founder at Nimbus Co. And Sue is a qualified nutritionist. And there was a couple of symptoms and things that she was noticing with me. This is way back to my Melbourne days, so around 2012-ish. So a good 12 years ago. And she was like, oh, I had flatulence and things like this, or I'd wake up tired all the time. I didn't really put on weight, which I know most people laugh at, but um, not always necessarily a good thing. And she was saying like, this isn't normal. And I was like, oh, well, this is the way I've always been. My dad used to fart a bit, it is what it is kind of thing. But a long story short, I went and got a load of tests, blood tests, you name it. I did the whole ECG, because I have fainted before quite regularly over my lifespan. And it came back that I have this thing called MTHFR, which is called the motherfucker gene. Now, quite a lot of us Australians, most people have one strand of it. It's a genetic thing, and it can be passed from your mom and your dad. If your mom or your dad is giving it to you like one strand, it usually doesn't have any impact whatsoever. If you have it from both parents, there's a 70% loss of the function of methylation in your body. So my body struggles to absorb and break down folic acids and things like vitamin Bs. So I'm kind of vitamin B deficient, and my body struggles to detoxify. And it all kind of started to make sense. And that all stems as well from my environmental background in terms of being Irish, high starch diet. Most Irish people have leaky guts. We eat a
Yes.
lot of we eat a lot of gluten, potatoes. A lot of stereotypes are actually quite true. So when you combine that all together, it wasn't really a great scenario for me. But I was just plowing through like you would, like anybody would. Oh, that's just me. And Sue
Yes.
was like, no, that's not right. So look, I've gone through elimination diets with it before. I'm not really supposed to have any kind of gluten, but I just can't say no to bread. Like it's just a reality. But at the time, I also struggled with inflammation, and some of the side effects of MTHFR, if you don't look after it, is cardiovascular disease, stroke, um, and also mental health because you're deficient in some nutrients. So I
Okay.
can't absorb things like the next person can. So I might have the same diet as the next person, but my body's not absorbing it like the next person or breaking it down. And Sue came across infrared in her she was practicing out of a clinic in Potts Point who did have an infrared sauna. They're called Health Space, and but they were using it as a kind of a post recovery. So you'd go in, you'd find out something similar to what I just told you, and you'd get prescribed to use infrared saunas. We'd also been to America. Sue was in New York and saw that it was actually used in a completely different way in America. And what I mean there is more of a lifestyle preventative kind of way. So similar to the easiest example is like a Pilates studio, something that you would just do every week, regardless of whether there's anything wrong with you.
Mm.
So when we came back to Australia, we thought, well, like nobody's really doing this. And we thought, okay, well, we've always wanted to be entrepreneurs. Sue has had multiple businesses before all this. She had a healthy snack business where we used to bring it around to corporates. I come from a corporate background, advertising, marketing, communications. So we kind of came together both skill sets in terms of marketing, that kind of health background, this idea of infrared. And when we realized, infrared was actually really good for me, particularly because I have inflammation. I have autoimmune conditions. This is alopecia areata that I have. And when you have a leaky gut and the MTHFR and bad gut microbiome, things like autoimmune and things like that flare up. So even though I was playing soccer, at that level, I was always having like, I started to get osteoarthritis in my knees, all this kind of stuff. My mom has arthritis. My granny had thyroid issues. So I knew that it was in my DNA.
Mm.
So saunas was like this magic thing. It basically, in a nutshell, a sauna helps speed up the detoxification process in humans. And regardless of my condition, nowadays, if you fast forward to today, so much research is talking about how our bodies just cannot deal with the amount of toxins that we're now faced with every single day. And that's everything from the cologne you wear to the deodorant you wear, the toothpaste you use, the
Yes.
food you put in your body, So our bodies can't detoxify that stuff quick enough anymore. And in my opinion, I think infrared saunas are just going to have to be a prerequisite in your life, whether you want it or not, because you're not going to be able to get those heavy metals out. Like people don't even understand when you go on a flight, you're exposed to radiation and heavy metals. And if you fly regularly, let's say you're a corporate, professional, and you're
Yes.
traveling all the time, then that's going to impact you more. And it all adds up. So yeah, it was kind of a aligning of our forces, a realization of our own personal health journeys ourselves. And it was just a magic mix. It just a light bulb moment went, I think we've got something here. And then we wanted to create a brand. There was a lot of stuff going on around that time. We started Nimbus in 2016. I think, Trump was coming into power. There was wars. There was, we were more connected than ever. And it just felt like everybody was a bit more stressed. So we just thought, okay, what if we took infrared, turned it into a lifestyle brand, and we drew similarities to Pilates and yoga. 50, 60 years ago, nobody would have known about Pilates, and it was made lifestyle, and now it's fully accessible. And, most people do tap into Pilates, as part of their wellness routine. So we
Yes.
had that same vision for infrared. We were like, if we can make this something that people can add into their routine once a week, once every fortnight, we're going to help people live healthier, and we're going to provide this service that nobody in Australia was aware of. And luckily enough, when we opened the doors, it caught on pretty quick.
No, you provide an amazing service. Like I said, it's one of the great getaways. I've just been in Melbourne for 5 days and I got back on Sunday night and usually I'm desperate for a massage. And this morning I went and had a ice bath and like it's just allowed me to just reset, clear the inflammation. Like it's only a short flight, but I was just getting to the airport, coming back, catching the taxi back, coming back late at night, waking up, training people. My job's quite hectic. And I'm not, I know I'm speaking for myself, but I know there's a lot of people out there that, work in labor jobs and stuff like that. So their bodies feel the impact of the work that they do. And once I had that ice bath, I just felt amazing. And I told the guys at the gym, I'm telling you, I haven't had a massage. And usually I have 2 massages a week because my body is in so much pain. I said, I haven't had a massage since last Thursday.
Yeah.
And it's at least No, no, not the last Thursday, since last uh, Tuesday. Sorry, last Tuesday. So it's almost a week now that I haven't, it's a week now that I haven't had a massage. I've had one ice bath and yeah, it was so good.
Well,
So
that's the thing. I think like massage and saunas are also very interwoven in terms of what they do because they're flushing out toxins and they're moving blood flow and lymphatic drainage and things like that. So like it's actually a really good combination to be doing saunas as well as ice baths. And yeah, like that's the thing. If you're this is like when I played soccer, like I've like retired. That sounds a bit wanky, but like in terms of me playing semi-professional, I finished like over a year ago, and but when I was 38 at that point, nearly 39, and I was still playing MPL, and there was nobody else in the competition at my age. Now I don't think that's just now, and I'm also, as I said, want to be very careful. I'm not some clean eater and everything is perfect. I'm not. Like I eat chocolate, I eat burgers. Okay. Even though I was training a lot, my diet always kind of I was about 80% of the way, but not quite 100. So like I'm very normal in that sense. But so I don't think it's coincidence that I've been doing saunas for 6 or 7 years at that point.
it has its benefits. It's all related,
Has it
isn't it?
benefits? Yeah, as in like I think I stretched easily 2 or 3 years out of my playing
Three.
career because of saunas and then ice baths more recently. It can't be a coincidence. It just can't. And
Neil, it's interesting you say that. I used to call it I'm cheating training, but I'm not cheating the workout. But before a workout, I used to get those green bins, those big green bins that we get delivered to clean our rubbish. So I remember before my first world title fight, I grabbed one from the back of the gym and I scrubbed it and cleaned it. And I cleaned it so well, I put it under the shower and I must have washed it like 10 times. And then once it was super clean, I'd filled it up with water and I'd run up to the service station and I'd put ice in it. And I would ice my shoulders with ice while I'm just before the workout and my neck, and then I'd put them in there, all the extra ice in there, and I'd have my workout. So my body was, and I'd reduced all the inflammation even before the workout. And then straight after the workout, I would jump in the ice bath and sit there after training. So in the term cheating, maybe not the right word, but I was able to reduce all the pain and all the inflammation. And I know Floyd Mayweather, when he trains, he does this sort of treatment, especially after training, when he does the ice baths and all that stuff. But during training, he's got somebody in between rounds just doing some manual therapy throughout the round. So if you can imagine having manual therapy throughout your training session, naturally at the end of it, you won't be so labored or taxed for the hard work that you've done. But I agree with you. Those ice baths are just amazing.
yeah, well, if you think about exercise generally, right? And I've been thinking about this a lot more recently, and a lot of the research is showing this. If you go to the gym, right, we're very used to flexing our muscles. We tear a muscle, it repairs, it gets stronger. You do that more regularly, you're going to build muscle mass, right? Now, if you think of that from a mental health perspective, a cellular level, like your overall, like how often are we actually training ourselves or our minds in terms and even like recovery from that sense? Most people spend, and myself included, and it's particularly for guys, when you get a spare moment, it's like go to the gym, go for a run. But even though that's healthy exercise, that's still putting your body under a stress environment. You're still going into that fight or flight mode. So if you're constantly doing that, and like God knows if I had found saunas and ice baths when I was in my 20s, I only found them when I was in my 30s. So who knows what would happen if I had done this 10 years earlier than I actually did. But when you think about a sauna is expanding your blood vessels, it's opening up your cells, right?
Your
When you
capillaries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your capillaries, all this. And then when you have an ice bath, it's contracting it. So I always use the accordion example. So just like you would be in the gym ripping a muscle, you're expanding your cells, you're closing your cells. You're expanding your blood, you're closing your blood. So you're doing that regularly. You're training your body to be able to cope with that stressful environment. But it's also a bit of that yin and yang. So as I said,
Of
if
course,
you're doing a run, your heart rate's elevated, which is our sympathetic system versus our parasympathetic system.
parasympathetic. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're in a sauna, you are going into that, that kind of unofficial stress environment. but you're
Super.
also, yeah, you're training your body to be able to cope with that. So when you breathe in, normally that means your heart rate is elevating. When you're slowing your heart rate down, that means you're going into that parasympathetic mode. And that's what an ice bath does. Yes, you get that initial, but when
Yeah.
you train your nervous system to cope with it, what happens is your heart rate is lowering all the time because you're literally in survival mode.
Yes.
That then produces brown fats because your body's trying to stay warm, and brown fats are the good fats. They're the ones that are linked to your metabolism. So when you have an ice bath, whilst you're actually slowing your heart rate down, you're literally giving your heart a break because you're slowing it down. And then post an ice bath, then because you've got all these amazing brown fats now in your system, your metabolism has just been like catapulted. So anything you eat or do for the day, your metabolism is kind of on fire. So think about all of those things that I just said. Like, how often are we doing that? Outside of, let's say, the known and tested forms of exercise, gym, cardio, whatever. So that's why I just think it's so important. It's like an uncracked egg in terms of, and I'm case in point of always trying to put my body under stress. But we all need to spend more time bringing our nervous system down.
You need some sort of time to recover, recharge the battery, and just switch off. And what a great way. Look, I just finished writing a book. It's currently in Florida with an author and a book writer called John Greenberg, who I spoke to this morning. And he particularly liked one of my chapters. It was the chapter that I dedicated to the um, 10 core elements in relations to our energy magnetic fields. Now, I think the ice bath is one of the most important, or not the most important, but super important part of that chapter that I refer to, because I have fibromyalgia, I have autoimmune disease with chronic fatigue and that, and I think what you said before, I wish I had been able to understand this when I was in my 20s, because I think if I had, I probably wouldn't have been so inflamed, and I wouldn't have been in such a stressful state, always been in that state of flight or fight mode all the time, which led me to be tired and then burnt out and fatigued, as opposed to being in a state of, you know, rest and digest, like you say, the parasympathetic state. And that the saunas, including the ice baths, they've got such great benefits. But let me ask you something, Neil. What are the benefits of, I know you spoke about infrared saunas. What are the benefits that you feel uh, people can get from using ice baths?
Well, I like to talk to them as a duo because individually a sauna and an ice bath can give you different types of benefits, right? So the sauna, you get, look, the core thing for me is detoxification. It's helping your body detoxify. In America, it's done wonders over there because of obesity levels. That it's difficult to get somebody who's morbidly obese to do exercise, but they can go in a sauna. So Tony Robbins talks about how it's changing a lot of his clients in their ability to kind of get healthy. But there's a whole knock-on effect of other things like skin health, digestive system, immune boosting, blood circulation, muscle recovery, better sleep. The list goes on and on. But then I also think of it of an X and Y axis. So if you do a sauna, like any kind of benefit or any kind of health practice, like Pilates, yoga, go for a run, do boxing, you're going to get immediate benefits. You'll burn calories, you'll strengthen your muscles, you'll increase your cardio response rate, all those kind of things. But if you do it regularly over time, and this is like 30-year studies coming out of Finland now that are saying if you do up to like 45 minutes per week, spread over 1 or 2 sessions, it will lower your risk of cardiovascular disease and stroke by up to 40 to 50%. It lowers your chances of getting any kind of regular disease by, I think, 20 to 30%. It also wards off things like dementia and Alzheimer's. So that's if you just do it regularly over time. And then when you add in ice baths, and like the queen of ice baths knowledge is a doctor called Susanne Soderberg out of Denmark. And if you're curious or you haven't heard her voice or her name before, please look her up. She brought out essentially her piece of PhD study about a year or two ago, which was just worldwide and kind of first in its field. And it's amazing. She came up with the Soderbergh principle, which is the idea of like you finish, like if you do hot or cold, you finish on the cold. And people often ask me, why should I finish on the cold? Because it's tempting to jump in a hot shower, right? Which I get.
Yes.
But the thing about ice baths is, as we mentioned earlier on, your body is slower its heart rate to produce these brown fats to literally survive. Because when you're in an ice bath, what happens is it's the same as they call it the dive effect. So your body feels like you're underwater. That's why the heart rate lowers. It's trying to keep you alive. And if you think of like Jack in Titanic, him hanging on to the plank at the very end, I often
Yeah.
joke saying like if he only had his hands closer to his body, he might have survived an extra minute, to get that whistle. But you are literally in survival mode. And if you do an ice bath, you automatically go like this because you're literally just, your body is just natural reaction. And I always say to people, if you want to feel like what's colder, just stretch your arms out. And by going like that, it feels like the temperature is like 5 degrees. And people go, oh, no way, I want to go back. And it's always your fingers, your toes, your extremities, whatever you're for guys and women, wear different
I noticed
extremities.
that this morning, Neil, when I put my arms up when I was at Bondi, our Nimbus, your one in Bondi, I put my arms out and they were in the water. I felt colder and colder.
Yeah, it is. It's just, yeah, they're the first things to go. It's why frostbite, all those things, your limbs they're the furthest away from your heart, right? So that's where you're gonna feel the cold the most. And look, I always say, like, well, this is just a fact. You should have your shoulders under the water because by having your shoulders under there, it stimulates your thyroid gland or your vagus nerve, which is like one of the
Yes.
most important nerves in your nervous system. So that regulation of parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, you need to switch on your vagus nerve to control that fight or flight mode. And you can turn your vagus mode on multiple ways, but ice baths are just a really good way to do it. So there's nothing wrong with you going up to waist height. I always say with ice baths, there's no hero, there's no
I like
right or
it to be
wrong
up here.
answer.
I like it to be up here, like you said today when I was there, and I even made sure that if I wasn't there, then I did made an effort to get there because, like you said, even when you put your hands up from boxing, you get sore elbows and sore shoulders and that. Just to have them immersed is so good. Even if it's just like if you're in there for 6 minutes or 5 minutes or however long you stay in there,
Yeah.
if you just immerse for half a minute while you're in there,
Oh
it
yeah, and look, the good thing is you can progress very quickly with ice baths. People, I get it, it's nervy. Even I get nervy every time I go into an ice bath. It, like you don't, it doesn't ever feel like, oh, this is going to be easy. I mean, you get used to the temperatures, obviously, and you can deal with the colder temperatures. But generally, you always get, that shock from it, and that's what you want. So it's a good thing. But you can progress pretty quickly. I know people who the first time they ever did one, they could only do 30 seconds, and they screamed. And then 2 or 3 goals later, they're doing 3, 4, 5 minutes. So you can progress really quickly. But in terms of the benefits, yeah, I think the best ones for me are the fact that you're giving your heart a rest, you're lowering your heart rate, you're increasing your metabolism, you're producing brown fats. You want it when you get out of an ice bath. The Soderbergh principle is like, don't have a hot shower. Let your body naturally heat back up.
come back
Why?
to yeah.
Yeah, because your body's having to work to get it back up to the normal, whatever it is, 37 degrees Celsius. So by you having a shower, you're just cutting that in half. You're basically bypassing that. You're letting your body off the hook. So you don't
Mm.
want to do that. It's the same at a sauna. When you're a sauna and you're finished, your pores are open and you're detoxifying. If you have a shower, it closes the pores and the process stops. It doesn't mean it does you any harm, but if you leave it and let your body naturally cool down, you squeeze a little bit more out of the practice than what you would have if you just jump in the shower. But the biggest thing for me with ice baths is mental health. Absolutely, because you're training your body. Like I struggle with anxiety, panic attacks, and depression, the gruesome threesome I call them. And anxiety and panic attacks have only been more in the last 7 or 8 years of my life. And that's a whole nother conversation of where that came from. But where I get the most out of ice baths, particularly if I'm in a very stressful environment or I'm feeling a bit anxious, I just jump in the ice bath because you're basically training your body, that whole training your nervous system to go calm down, regulate your nervous system. And then what happens is if you do that regularly over time, the next time you actually get a real stressful situation, and nowadays this is the problem with society. Nowadays, those stressful environments are coming from something as little as an email from your boss or an Instagram thing. You'll look at somebody else, you look at Maydad, some other guy set up a boxing club down the road from you, and you get this little, oh shit, I've got to, and you start going into this spiral. So if you're training your nervous system to be able to cope with these stressful environments, that's just creating better neuroplasticity in your own system. And it's not to say you won't get stress, but your recovery is going to be a lot quicker. And it's literally ice baths and breath work, for me personally, are the two best and quickest things you can do to de-stress yourself. So I cannot live without them at the moment, you know.
I agree 100%. We had a great guy here, a gentleman by the name of what's his name, David Pemberton, who does the Batiko breathing method by Patrick McEwen, the Irish guy who developed the Batiko breathing method. And he taught me only to nasal breathe. And he has this philosophy that Patrick did develop and shared, that you mouth is only used to eat and speak, not to breathe out of. It just produces inflammation. Not only that, by using by nasal breathing, you're using filtered air. It's more quality air. You get almost 25% better quality air. It's just so much better for us. But no, I couldn't agree with you any more than that. Neil, it's been amazing having you here tonight. And I know we've got a lot to talk about. I'd love to sit down and chat to you about the gruesome three that you talked about on
Mhm.
another Zoom or another conversation, because I'm sure you could have so much stuff to share about that. But if any of our viewers watching this back want to have a Nimbus experience and find out a little bit more, how do they get in contact with uh, some of your staff or some of your locations? Have you got a website they could go to, that you could, an address that you could share with the audience, a Facebook page or something?
Yeah. Yeah, look, when we started Nimbus in 2016, we saw ourselves as being an infrared sauna studio. And back then we were the first, kind of exclusive one in the whole of Australia. But fast forward 8 years to today, the brand has grown a lot more. It's kind of diversified. One of the things that COVID taught us was that, well, you can't have a sauna when the whole community shut down. You can't have one yet anyway online, but maybe into the future, technology might allow to do that. But for us, we did have a goal right from the very beginning that we want, you might laugh at this, but we wanted to be Coca-Cola, but for good. We wanted to be accessible to people no matter where you are. And when you think about that, you can't just do that from studios. And COVID really kicked us up the backside with that. So we launched e-commerce, a product. So as I said earlier on, Sue is a qualified nutritionist. So we have products now. We have a face oil, a body oil, a hydration supplement, all natural, no nasties in there. And they're all kind of pseudo linked to Nimbus and saunas. We also have our own range of sauna technology. We have a sauna blanket. We have sauna machines that you can put in your home. We have people buying them for their offices. And then the last part is this like wellness at work, which is like the latest part of what we do. So this is like Nimbus coming to you. So whether it's an office block or whatever, I was just over in WA last week talking to small businesses over there about how you can bring wellness to you no matter where you are. So it's not about Nimbus was born in Bondi, arguably one of the best places in the world from a wellness perspective. It's not just about that. So what we're trying to create is this circular economy. That Nimbus is more than just a studio. It's an ethos. It's a way of living, and it's all based on preventative health. So if you do these things regularly, consistently over time, you're just going to be a healthier Australian. Now, we don't have the answers to everything. We can't, we're not a Pilates studio or yoga studio or, we do some other things outside of that. We have LED. We do have practitioners that operate within our studios, but really we see Nimbus more as a gateway. It's just a community that you can connect with. And, as you were saying, May, that you can come in and have a wonderful experience. Maybe you chat to one of our team. They might be a qualified practitioner in their own right. Maybe they need some nutritional support. We'll always have somebody in our circles that we can, push them towards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's this kind of ripple effect of, and the fact that we can now take Nimbus to, office spaces and you can actually buy products. It's slowly getting there. I can't believe that like in the last year or two, we can really spread our tentacles to more than just our studios. But the studios are the core of what we do. It's tangible. People can come experience us. And everything that you experience in our studios is carefully curated. So everything from what you see, what you smell, what you touch, what you taste, all of that is very intentional. And what I mean there is, all the scents and smells and the aromas that you come into the studio are consistent, and we actually work on them in the background with all the national team across all the studios to create that aromatherapy. The products that we stock, we only stock products that share our values. If you're not ethical or conscious brand, we don't stock you. So we're very, very careful with that. We've created things like soundscapes, which is part of your in sauna experience. So it's on all the iPads in the room. And we
Yes.
work with an artist on that to create, we worked with frequencies. We're all humans give off frequencies. The world gives off a frequency. The
Yeah.
axis of the planet gives off a frequency. So we work with this artist to look at nurture your nature. So honoring Australia and the kind of flora and fauna that we have here. Womb space, which was an idea that I had about, well, when a baby is in a womb, you're getting a frequency from mama, you're getting food from mama, and you feel safe and secure. So how can we replicate that environment, that frequency? And the first one we did there was looking at the female resting heartbeat. So the idea is, yes, while you're relaxed with us inside Nimbus, if we can also bring a sound experience that can actually take you subconsciously even more relaxed, well then that's magical, right? So all of that effort goes into the Nimbus experience. And like, in terms of what that experience is or what is valued most, we survey our clients every year. And the top three things that people say why they come to Nimbus have absolutely nothing to do with the actual specific health benefits. And you might go, what are you talking about? And so, I mean, like, they're not talking about their skin health or I got better sleep or things like that. Number three was I love to just come and relax. Number two was just the staff and the people and the environment. And the number one thing was the feeling that people got from whence they came in to whence they leave. So that, like, we call that's the Nimbus effect. That's that invisible, non-tangible, almost impossible to quantify. But as you said at the very beginning of this chat, it's my place to get away. And that's the same kind of thing. And we get people who are in big time CEO roles, elite athletes. We have all kinds of everybody coming in. And I think we didn't even think about that when we first opened, that probably the most valuable thing that we offer is a space for people to come, literally a box within a box. You're in a room in a box where it's a choose your own adventure. Nobody can disturb you. You can do whatever you want and you're not being stimulated by somebody else. Like, not many other things, even in terms of meditation or yoga or whatever, you're listening to something, you're being guided, or there's a teacher, there's music, Yes, you can do that in sauna as well, but you can also completely shut off. And that's what I love. Like, no sauna is equally created in my sense, in my opinion.
In
And
that,
what I
yeah,
mean, it's like you can go in sometimes and yeah, sure, you can watch a Netflix show if that's all you want to do. I do it like the rest of us. Sometimes I go in though, I turn off all the lights and I'm just in complete darkness and stillness. Sometimes I will do a meditation. Sometimes I'll do chanting. Sometimes I'll only do 20 minutes because that's all my body can take. So that's the beauty of it, is that, sometimes I focus on the LED chromotherapy. Sometimes I turn that completely off because I don't want it. So it's just magical in that sense that no sauna is the same. It depends on your day, what mood you are coming into this, what your goal is. And yeah, like, to be able to create that experience and the fact that people value that is very, very special.
it's amazing. Like you said, Neil, can you share with us your how people look you up on Instagram or the website address?
Yeah, so the website is just nimbusco.com.au, and we redeveloped that last year to house not only our sauna studio business but also the e-commerce. So you can literally go on and browse all our products there, the face oil, the body oil, the saunas, everything. We also have educational content on there. So we have our journal, which we have contributions from health practitioners. So it's a great resource. On Instagram, we are the Nimbus Co. So at the Nimbus Co. We are on TikTok as well, but Instagram is really our main one, and we do a little bit on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, Instagram is kind of where most of our community converse. And then, but yeah, you can check us out. We do a community plunge club on the first Saturday of every month nationally. So no matter where you are, you can attend that. It's completely free, and that was just a way for us to kind of give something back to our community and also help people with ice baths. It's a lot of newcomers, but sometimes we get experienced people as well. so everybody is welcome. So we're trying to really create more of a two-way conversation with our community, um, just like we're doing with the retreat with yourself.
Yes, speaking of retreats, Neil, first of all, great to have your share and so much input. We'll have to make it another time for us to talk about some different things like we spoke about, the gruesome three, etc. I'm sure with your wealth of knowledge, you'll be enabled to enlighten us with so many things. But in regards to our retreats, we do have a retreat date set for the 7th of December, and we've only got about 7 spots left. It is run on Saturday, the 7th of December. The retreat will start at Bondi Beach just before sunrise with our yoga coach and practitioner, Emmeline. And from there, we will walk back to Bondi Boxing Gym where we'll have some beverages and do a nice human movement workout, including boxing and functional training. That session will conclude with some neural transformation therapy session and vision sessions will allow me to tap into your subconscious mind. And it's a great empowering motivation session. After that, people will be served delicious foods from Up South Cafe, and they do all our retreats. They make amazing foods, including detoxing smoothies and other stuff. And from there is when we'll walk to the Nimbus Health and Wellness Centre up at Bondi Road. And there we're all going to have ice baths. We're going to motivate each other and have an amazing experience, what we call the Nimbus experience. The retreat will conclude with some acai bowls and some beverages. It's going to be an amazing event. And if anyone wants to learn a little bit more about it, shoot us a message on Maydad Ronan Coaching or my Facebook, Maydad Ronan's Facebook, and call me on 0402 622 662. Other than that, we're looking forward to hearing from you and great chatting with you tonight, Neil. I look forward to catching up with you in person
Yeah.
and just chatting some more.
Yeah, I think, look, we've just started to dabble in retreats as well. We did something in Bondi back in May, which was a complete sellout, so to have an environment, the whole days of like the Friday night drinks in the office are kind of largely going away, and I come from advertising, so I know what that was like. So, and I think that's one of the things that COVID did give us is that it gave us the sense of time and appreciation for our own bodies and our longevity. So there seems to be a great appetite for retreats, particularly ones that are on your doorstep. So the fact that you can have a bit of a half day retreat with yourself and learn all those things, like even some of those things I've not done before, the neural training definitely would be very, very interesting for me to do that. So the ability to have that in your doorstep in Bondi is great. And I think there's just going to be a lot more of that because people are really conscious about their life now. They know life is short, so, I think a lot of people are investing in wellness, investing in their health. I'm doing a project in January myself where I'm going to really try and biohack myself for 3 months. So I'm going to go off the drink. I don't drink that much at all anymore, but I'm just going to go fully off it and set a very strict protocol with saunas, ice baths, nutrition. So yeah, even me myself, I know there's room for improvement. So if you're looking for a bit of improvement in your own life, definitely come check out that retreat.
Awesome. Yeah, that's true. Like, those experiences, these past 5 days, I've been in Melbourne and everything that we spoke about when we were in Melbourne. And I really, when I look back now and I look at everything that I've enjoyed doing, not just there, but anywhere, it's that experience that we really retain to. I mean, people come to your wellness center, and I know when I went there this morning, it's almost like when you walk down the beach, if you can picture it, you walk to the beach and you just want to get in the water and you get in the water and the feeling of leaving, and then you look at the experience, and that is what makes that experience so good. Like whether it be going to a gym, the difference is between being in an ice bath, as you shared. It's you're not in a flight or fight mode, even though for the first few seconds you're breathing and you're just getting used to it. Over time, I think it's about a minute or something for me. I only spent 6 minutes in there today, but it was more than enough than what I needed, and I walked out feeling amazing. So
Only 6 minutes. That sounds like says the pro versus people who do 30 seconds. But the thing about ice baths as well, I'm conscious that we're both Bondi people talking about ice baths, right? There's memes about us. But it also doesn't need, and this is my whole thing about wellness, is like I've spent 10 years in this personally in my own wellness journey, and obviously being at the forefront from a business perspective. And most of the things that are most valuable to me are the things that are easy and free and accessible and you can do from anywhere. And like ice baths are a good example. People might say, oh, well, I can't put an ice bath in my house or whatever, or I don't live near one of your studios. But you can get the exact same benefits from a cold shower. If you
Yeah,
put the shower on to cold for 30 seconds at the end of your shower and do that for 30 days, which Wim Hof talks about, you get the exact same benefits as an ice bath. So I kind of call bullshit on a lot of that stuff because like a lot of this like, breath work is free, literally six seconds in or 4 seconds out, or box breathing 4 by 4 by 4 in a square, or the physiological sigh, which is just in through your nose and sneak another bit, and then a long exhale. Like these things you can do on a bus, you can do on a train, you can do it. Like I did it when I was in WA, minutes before I went on the stage, went into the toilet, did one round of box breathing just to kind of settle myself. Like these things are, it takes a long time to realize that a lot of this stuff is free, accessible, and right in front of us. So don't feel like it's not achievable, because it definitely is. And yeah, as I said, 30 seconds, sometimes 60 seconds is all you need to kind of just reset yourself. But um,
it's amazing. Like, I know that sometimes when I'm driving my car, and I know it's going to sound a little bit silly to some people, but I just gargle water, and it's a great way to. Sometimes I just hum. I've got a CD. I used to have a CD that it was native Indian, and they used to do all these native Indian chants by humming deeply, like just humming. And what that does is reset your vagus nerve. And as you know, like that is all about being in a parasympathetic state and not being in a flight or fight mode. And the more time we spend doing that, is there's so
and
many,
I
so
love
many.
what you mentioned as well about the conscious subconscious, because I've been really getting into this because I was quite a negative person for most of my life, and I still have it, but I kind of retraining my neural pathways to not do it. So, if I met you or we had this chat and somebody asked me, how did your chat go? I was like, oh, I didn't say that point. That's how my brain used to always go. And if you think about that from a subconscious point of view, if you're constantly telling yourself, you could have done that better, that was shit, you don't look good, blah, 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 that's just seeping into your subconsciousness, which is your DNA. You're holding that literally at a cellular level. So I only found things like gratitude in the last year or two because I ran the 24-hour run Grateful Marathon in Bondi last November. And
Yes.
that just a light bulb moment about, and I used to think gratitude was a bit wanky, gratitude, I'm not a journaler. Like that's, I'm not going to buy a book and say
Yeah,
how I feel, but it doesn't need to be like that. It's more about just spending time in the mirror. Um, you were saying humming, like dancing, little things like that, or finding those moments when you can just go, do you know what, mate? I'm very proud of you. You're doing great. And the more you do it, the more it just snowballs. Then you find yourself in these pockets all the time. And now that's going into your subconscious. And now it's all this thing about visualization, manifestation, it's all interlinked. It's like if you put that energy out there, that energy is going to come back to you. So that's the latest part of my whole journey is I'm really leaning into this space of like, and I'm not spiritual really, I'm not any of that, but I'm just like trying to channel my energy now into a positive mindset. And sure, life throws things at you, but if you let it get at you, you're going to just keep getting those things versus you flip it and go, well, like COVID, for example, yes, it was a horrible scenario. People died, all those kind of things. It was awful. But then it also gave us time. It also gave us appreciation for our lives. So if you use that as a little example that like you can turn anything in life into a positive.
100%. Like it's incredible when you talk about the word biohacking. Biohacking what? Biohacking your diet, intermittent fasting. That's minimal. That's just something simple. But when you're able to biohack it, your behavior, when you talk about behavioral science, the ability to biohack your response, because your
Mm.
response has a lot to do with what a title you've given to an event, to an experience that you assigned to. That's powerful, you know? That
Well,
is really
I was reading I was listening to another podcast yesterday who was talking about there's the three quickest and easiest ways to prolong your life from a longevity point of view in terms of creating, like recreating cells, like producing new cells, and they're all shock based. One of them is intermittent fasting. Number two is ice baths, like that cold therapy. And the third one is high interval training, so that high intensity. So, like that's saying boxing, hit, that kind of stuff. So, that kind of level of training, some form of cold exposure, and then fasting, where like basically the three things they were talking about. And
Survival, survival. If you look at it, it's like a survival because you like. I look at ice baths and you talk about like intermittent fasting. It's like surviving. I mean, like it, survival mode. You're kind of like, look,
yeah, well, you need to shock your body to create those survival assets, whatever it is, cells, whatever in your body, so you can survive. So if you're creating that, that's how it's working, you know. So yeah, like it's good to know that you're in the right sphere. And again, thinking of my soccer example of me playing an extra few years, like again, saunas, ice baths, probably producing additional cells that were helping my recovery over the next guy, you know. And that for me prolonged my career by at least 3 years, 4 years. And
yes,
if you think about our own lives, like, we want to live longer, we want to live healthier. Like I turned 40 last week. So a big age for me, but what I realized at 40, and I did have a few drinks just to give you another analogy here. And, I like a drink, well, it's tough being Irish and not liking that, but like, whilst I had a great time, the next day, like today's nearly, well, we're nearly Wednesday now, and I'm still not 100%. So if you just think of that's just one day of drinking, and it wasn't even that excessive. I was in bed by 10 o'clock, but that's the impact.
it
So when
is.
you just compare that to going for ice baths and so on, and I'm not trying to sound you can't have these things in your life. No, not at all. Like, I don't know if I'll ever give up drink fully. Who knows? Maybe I will. But it's just really to highlight that's the impact that's having on you mentally, physically. Then your diet is off. You're not sleeping well. I end up getting a blocked ear. Like, these are all the repercussions that happen when you do those things. And yeah, that's fine. Sometimes you need them in your life, but you know, I've come a long way to when I first came to Australia in 2011, where I lived for the weekend and all those things were my life. And you're just going in that inertia of like, well, I deserve this or whatever. But it's just chipping away at your overall health, your longevity. So if that's what you want to do, power to you, go for it. But if you want to value life and try and prolong longevity, well, then, you need to have some of these things in your routine.
Of course, what a great share. Neil, thank you for joining us tonight. It's been amazing having you, and I look forward, like I said, to catching up with you in person. I'll give you a call sometime during the week and we can have a chat then. But other than that, have an amazing week. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, mate. Nice to speak to you all. See you soon.